appreciate you all indulging Daniel and I's banter around new and upcoming features. We talk about this stuff quite a bit. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the meat of the conversation. This webinar is being recorded, and we will be making the recording available after the webinar. We're also going to be sharing the slides afterwards as well. So please do send in your questions. We are going to try and take questions throughout if it makes sense, and then we are going to do our best to save some time at the end for the Q&A session so that we can try and take as many questions as we possibly can. But I will say that, we've got a lot of demos packed into this session, and I think that we are going to, just try and use this time as best we can to share these new features with you all. So with that in mind, why don't we move forward and talk through the agenda? Okay. Well, so with me here today is Daniel Cohen-Dumani. Daniel, are you there?
I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Cohen-Dumani. Thank you, Jill. I am the partner and market leader for our Microsoft Cloud Consulting Solution and Services business at Withum. We were previously known as Portal Solutions, and as some of you may know, we merged our practice with Withum Smith & Brown in May this year. So we're excited to have this webinar today to talk about a lot of new things happening with Office 365. A little bit of word about myself. I've worked with SharePoint for about 14 years now. So we've been immersed in talking SharePoint and Office 365 for a very, very long time. So how about you, Jill?
Thank you. So just to give a quick intro of myself, I'm Jill Hannemann. So I actually came to working with SharePoint in the MOS 2007 version. Started and I focused primarily in knowledge management, so leveraging technology to help improve the way we manage, the way we store, the way we retain and reuse the knowledge that is going on and being cultivated every single day in our companies and our organizations. And so I really caught on to SharePoint and the Microsoft technology stack just because of how prevalent and how useful Microsoft Office is on all of our daily work, and the integration points and the need for us to leverage technology to improve knowledge management. So that is kind of my passion and my sweet spot. And you'll notice I like to do a lot of cooking, and I like to do some baking. So I've been making cinnamon rolls a lot and trying different recipes and different ratio mixtures to create the fluffiest and tastiest cinnamon rolls. So if anyone's a baker out there, definitely let me know if you have any tips to share. So moving into our agenda, so we've got a really packed agenda for this next hour. A lot has happened in the landscape, and we are going to try and show you guys as much as we possibly can to give you kind of that deeper level dive into these features and how you use them and why this is important for you and your organizations when you're using Office 365. So we're going to talk about communication sites. We are going to talk about Microsoft Teams, Power Apps. Then we're going to hit on forms and flow. And then finally, if this wasn't enough, we're going to talk about what's coming next. So jumping right into things, we do want to share a little bit about us. So as Daniel mentioned, we're formerly Portal Solutions and have recently merged with Withum Smith Brown, a top 30 national accounting firm. But our team, now known as the Microsoft Solutions and Services, we've been in this space and we've been in this business for quite some time. So 15 plus years. As Daniel mentioned, he's been working with SharePoint since its inception. So as a result, our team has completed over 350 implementations of SharePoint and Office 365. And we were working with customers who were bleeding edge adopting Office 365 back in 2011, 2012. So we are part of Microsoft's early adopter program, and our team has over 100 folks a part of it, so advisory professionals who work with technology in many different facets and capacities in order to deliver modern workplace solutions. So moving into that, just a quick note about the digital workplace. There's so much buzz around this term, and everyone is really trying to grasp what does the digital workplace mean for us, and how should we be evangelizing, and how should we be taking this term and bringing it into our own workplace. So there's the term digital workplace, there's the term modern workplaces that Satya Nadella is talking about, and they really can be one and the same. Ultimately, what we're looking at doing is building solutions and creating technologies, applications that improve our workers' ability to work anywhere they need to, on any device, leveraging solutions that are simple, that capture the data and that allow us to leverage that data to make informed decisions and improve our ability to collaborate and work with our colleagues in a frictionless environment. And so that idea, as lofty as an ideal it may sound, it really is achievable, and these tools and technology are really helping us take that next step forward. So ultimately, what are we looking for Office 365 to do? How do we take, a branded solution like Office 365, a SaaS solution, and turn it into, or have it be an anchor for us to create that digital workplace or that modern workplace for our own organization? So this is just one idea of, how are we selling this to our folks internally? How are we, what whys are we giving our folks as to why we're making these changes, and how is this change going to impact their work and their ability to work faster and to work more easily with their colleagues, and to make a difference in the bottom line. So ultimately, this is really where the digital workplace starts for everybody. You should be understanding, what are you looking for it to do? How is it going to make an impact? And where is there friction in the way your folks work and how they get work done? And answering that question and having that be your business case is the right way to start. So since this conversation is all about updates and staying up to date with Office 365, we have a question for you all. And that question is, how do you keep track yourself of these Office 365 updates? And so, give us your honest answer. We're just kind of curious. And we'll share the results with you all after we're done.
So it seems that, Jill, we're seeing the results coming here, that many people don't keep track of it, and that doesn't surprise us too much, right?
No. This is what we do. This is what we live and breathe. So, as things are happening, we are abreast of it. But I know that a lot of folks have too many daily responsibilities to be really on top of what's happening.
Right, and then 50% of the audience here said that they received notification from Microsoft, which is kind of a new way that Microsoft has come out about 9 months ago in notifying your administrator of changes, but that's just admins, right? So, it's not easy for end users to know what's going as well.
But I'm actually impressed to see that a lot of people are looking at the Office 365 roadmap.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Definitely. So Daniel, why don't you talk to us about the landscape of Office 365? I'm looking at this picture, and frankly, I'm a little overwhelmed.
It is, and you know we've created this picture a while ago to give some clarity to our prospective clients, our clients, about what is Office 365, right? So many clients, many users don't even know what it is. For some folks, it's just an email in the cloud. For others, it's maybe just OneDrive, right? Office 365 is a collection of capability from user productivity application, from productivity services such as SharePoint Online, Skype, Yammer, OneDrive, and then recently Microsoft added this concept of productivity application, right, which are application that sits really on top of the platform and leverage a lot of those services. Microsoft Teams, Power Apps, Flow, Planner are example of those productivity applications that uses the back end of Office 365 to provide user with a lot of capability. So we're going to talk today about SharePoint Online. We're going to talk today about advances in Microsoft Teams, Power Apps, and Flow. Obviously, Office 365 is an ever-evolving platform. It changes, you know, we used to say every quarter, but now it's really on a monthly basis. If you guys receive those emails, you know that you receive an email on a monthly basis. Sometimes new features are announced in the roadmap. Sometimes, frankly, they come out of nowhere, right? So it's important to keep up to speed and be aware, and that's the purpose of the webinar today, is to keep people aware of new features that have been released over the last 3 months. So let's get started and talk about communication sites in Office 365. This was recently announced in May of 2017 at the virtual SharePoint Summit, Office 365 Summit event. Communication side is really an evolution of the SharePoint Online publishing sites. Those are modern sites that are used to create content, to reach a larger audience, and to engage people, right? It is an evolution of what people have used for a long time from a publishing site standpoint. And when you look at the picture of new SharePoint capability, we are seeing two different type of sites happening. There's the modern team sites that have been released about 9 months ago, almost a year ago. Those are modern team sites. They're fast, responsive, works really well, but they address little group collaboration. And then recently, Microsoft launched those communication sites that are used mostly and more often to consume to content, to publish content that others will consume in your organization. Think about a human resources site. Think about as a finance site where you post content, news, documents, events, and you know, request feedback from your user community, right? So it's a few content authors and a lot of content consumer. That's what communication sites are all about. So to show you a picture, and then we'll jump into a demonstration. This is not your traditional SharePoint site that people have been used to for many years. Even a SharePoint publishing site, to get to something as pretty as this, often require to hire, you know, consultants, maybe designer, to get to delivering something that looked great out of the box. And that's what Microsoft tried to achieve with those communication sites. Now, you know, let's be honest, this isn't a full intranet yet, but it's a start in the right direction to allow organizations to create sites to communicate within the organization quickly and effectively, and to do that from virtually any device. So this is another view of you know, pages and something that's more like an online article that people can easily publish and make available. So why don't we jump into...
And so Daniel, how many different templates? Yeah. How many different templates are there right now for communication sites?
There's only one template for communication site as of now, right? So there will be more templates coming down the road, but as of now, it's mostly only one template and one template only. That's likely to change in the upcoming future. So let's do a quick demo here. So I've created a site here, but let me go back and show you what the result is. So that's a new communication site. It lives in SharePoint, right? So I can go back to my SharePoint page here, and you create site by using this create site functionality here. Obviously, you have to be allowed to create site, and that's where we see this team site versus communication site, right? So you'll see here that you have not so much a design, a template as much as a design you can select, and when you hit create, it goes out and create your site extremely quickly, right? So the site gets provisioned. I'm going to show you here quickly a site that I've created so that we get to it relatively quickly here. So this is a communication site. We've created a site here that essentially is a human resource site that's used in the organization to showcase content to your users and your employees. So one thing you'll notice quickly is it's engaging, right? It looks great out of the box, has some capability of, different layouts here. I've got some events web parts. I got a news web part here. I got some files that were recently updated, and I got some links, and I can see the contact in my HR site, right? So traditionally things that you will do and achieve using a publishing site. You see here that I can easily edit this page if I have the proper rights. I can move things around quickly like that. I can reorganize my page, right? So it's very fast, it's responsive, it's easy to use, right? Frankly, it's what we expected SharePoint to be a few years back, and Microsoft is finally delivering something that's easy to use. You see here that we can easily update, the layout, 2 columns, 3 columns, or make columns, of different size here. We don't yet have the option to create our own layout, so that's kind of fixed, but we've got a fair amount of flexibility. I can easily add a web part to my page. You'll see here, and we'll talk about it later on, that currently there's a limited amount of web parts available. Obviously, you can create your own web parts. This is using the new SharePoint framework, developer capabilities, all client side, all using extremely modern technology here to allow you to publish content here. So I can see here that I have maybe another page on my site here. You see how fast the rendering is, right? So that's really a big difference from what we've been used to in the SharePoint world, right? So extremely performant here. If I'm looking at my recent file and click here, you see here that the page transition are quick, seamless, easy to use, and so forth. More importantly, and that's often a request from a lot of our customers here, this is responsive, right? So I can take it to a small device here out of the box. I haven't done anything here, but in a few clicks, I'm showing you a responsive design here, which is approximately the size of a phone here. And you see here that my site here is still available, still working the same way that it worked on mobile device. So responsive out of the box, right? So we have a great set of functionality here that usually to build a site like that, would have taken a lot of time. So what are the pros and cons? Obviously, it's not always, great out of the box, specifically that this is the first iteration. We call it version 1 of the communication site. So very responsive out of the box, polished, look good. It makes a non-technical content owner, able to be independent and work fast, quick, easily, and integrate easily with other capability. Now, obviously there's still a work in progress here, and we're looking to a lot of announcement coming at the end of September at the Microsoft Ignite conference in Orlando, right? Some of the issues we're seeing here is layouts, you're kind of locked into the layouts that Microsoft is giving you. There's no global navigation, right? Although we are working already on solving this here in our team. There's no styling capability, although Microsoft announced that this week should be the week where we see the theming engine being released August 24th or 21st was the date. And there's a limited set of web parts available, right? So great concept. It's coming. Our recommendation is wait a few months until you start deploying this, right? You have to experiment with communication side before getting too excited about it. But that's, you know, a great insight of what's coming in the next few months and some of the investment that Microsoft is making with SharePoint.
So Daniel,
yes.
Daniel, I have a quick question before we jump into the poll. So what do you think we should, for folks who are planning on rolling out Office 365 and starting to plan their SharePoint Online usage, where do you think they should incorporate communication sites into their plans, knowing that there's some limitations now, but there are new features coming?
I think they should carefully evaluate if what's available today is sufficient. For many organizations that want to create a collection of, a dozen department sites, I think the communication site as they are today is probably sufficient. Now, it depends on the organization and the sophistication of your organization, and you may be facing where you have maybe a web part that's missing, right? So, that's where you need to evaluate your needs and see if it's sufficient or not. At the minimum, start a pilot, start testing and experimenting with those capabilities. And that's the reason why Microsoft has released them, so that they can get a feedback and people can get comfortable with what's coming next. All right, so on to our next subject. Microsoft Teams, right? Because I think when we think about Office 365 and collaboration, about 9 months ago, Microsoft released a new capability called Teams. By the way, we're not a big fan of the name here, but we'll use the word Microsoft Teams as the way to describe this new enterprise chatting capability in Office 365. And Jill, I think we've been very surprised of the adoption within our clients of Teams. Isn't it interesting?
It really is, and seeing it from both edges of the coin. So the push that Microsoft is making and what they're doing to Teams and how they're enabling Teams is just as interesting as how responsive and positively accepting clients have been of adopting Teams and their interest in embedding it into their organization. And so, one of the pieces of this evolution is the Outlook groups and how that has sort of how that didn't really take off, and that was around for about a year before Microsoft Teams. And we never really saw the uptick in adoption quite the same way as Teams once it came out. But, and having met with a good number of customers and other folks out in the industry, it really is that conversation around, comparing Microsoft Teams to Slack. And
yes.
And, the adoption of Slack in the organization, and then now the fact that there is a Microsoft equivalent to that persistent chat has really been a game changer, I think.
It has, and from an audience standpoint, about 25% of the folks don't know what it is. So today's a great webinar. We're going to talk about that. Some knows what it is, but they're not using it. So that's hopefully we can give you some hints about adoption and how to start using it. And about 23% are using it. So that's interesting to see. So why don't we get started, Jill? Take it away and tell us about Microsoft Teams.
Great. Okay. So Daniel just said, we're not really too keen on the name, and I'll already say that I have been abusing the word teams and groups so much that no one hardly even knows what I'm talking about. But we'll talk about it in terms of Microsoft Teams, which is a application, and it's not only a browser-based application, but it's also a desktop application that allows you to have persistent chatting environments in a group and channel-based format. So it allows you to have established groups of or collections based on topic, based on anything you want to name it, to bring individuals together in an open or secure way, so that they can have a threaded discussion, an ongoing threaded discussion that acts like email, but is in line and provides you with that threaded capability so that you can keep track of and search any of the conversations that are going on between the folks within your group. So the beauty of it, and I think the power of the team, really comes in its ability to be customizable. And we're going to show you a bit about that, but more so we're going to talk to you about just how powerful the team environment is becoming, and how much more powerful we see it being in 6 months from now. So when you think about what you can use a team for, a team really can be leveraged for many different types of purposes, and it can be leveraged for many different team roles, different purposes, different functions. So you can run sales, and you can have your marketing team coordinating events, coordinating tasks. It can even be used as project management. So as you think about the different ways people work together in groups and in smaller teams or even larger teams, think about all the fundamental capabilities that those groups of people are looking for. So they're looking to exchange emails, they're looking to exchange conversations, they're looking to have a calendar to stay in touch, they have files that they all collectively work on, they may need a task list, or they may need a Gantt chart to manage a timeline of activity and deadlines that they're all subject to. And in addition to a host of other capabilities and demands that these groups will need in order to stay together and stay unified. So there really are, it's a blank canvas and can be tailored and adapted to whatever a team may need in order to be collaborative and productive together. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the demo, because talking about it really isn't as good as seeing it.
All right, so you're going to present, Jill, so I may be the presenter.
Fantastic, okay. All right, are you all able to see my screen?
Yeah, we're good.
Great, okay. So this is the app. And I'm leveraging the desktop app, and it's something very similar to my Outlook that pops open when I start my day. So I turn on my computer and I launch, and this interface comes up and gives me a nice navigation pane to check in on notifications, to check in on what's going on and what's happening. So the first thing I usually do is I look on this left panel here to see if I have any notifications, so I can see what's going on in the different teams that I'm a part of. I'll hit on the activity pane, because that will let me know if I've been mentioned somewhere, if someone has written directly to me, or if one of the teams or the channels that I have notifications set on, if anything's happened in any of those channels. So I can come in here and then directly jump into that conversation to find out, what's happened overnight, and what do I need to address right now. So that's a great way of just having that cue, having that immediate cue that you can check to see what's going on and what's changed. The next piece here is any direct chats or direct messages that I may have gotten. So I can see my buddy Dan Jump, he's active and he's online. You can see that he has the green presence awareness, and he's sending me some notes. So you know, he is actually typing right now. You can see this at the bottom. So Dan is wondering if maybe we should meet. You know, he's really enjoying using Teams, and I have a couple opportunities here to schedule a meeting with him. So if we just want to catch up. So say we're gonna meet to discuss Microsoft Teams, and we'll meet today and we'll meet after this webinar. So I can go ahead and schedule the meeting with him. And then it'll give us a reminder and a place where we can join online in a few minutes to meet together. And this is running right through. Oh, I'm actually getting a phone call. So I can check the video call. I can open up with and just audio. So there's Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Jill.
So Daniel, are you Dan Jump? You're Dan Jump, right?
I am.
So there you go. And this is the power of Teams, the ability to meet ad hoc and to have that immediate connection if you need to connect with someone. So that was running through chat, and this is an individual one-to-one type thing. So only Dan and I can see what's going on in this threaded discussion right here, but I can share files directly with Dan. We can see an organization chart of where Dan sits, and Dan's our CEO, but I can see other folks who are directly underneath him, and I can also look at Dan's activity as well. So now moving into the actual teams.
And Jill, if I may interrupt you here, a lot of people will tell us, well, I can do that with Skype for Business today, right?
Right, yes.
What's so different here? What's the main difference?
Well, the main difference is where we're looking right now. So you can see in this white column these different icons here. So sales operations, board director meetings. These are our different teams, and beneath them are different channels. So this gives us the ability to now have threaded discussions and almost have like a team site type experience, a physical location where people can gather to store shared documents, notes, tasks, and other really valuable information that keep us informed, keep our work transparent, and allow us to get things done faster. So working in sales as Molly, I am going to click on my sales operation group, team, and out of the box, you're going to get this general feed, and then you can create additional channels. Creating additional channels is really simple, but I'm going to click on the M400, and M400 is a product within this Contoso environment. So looking at the news feed, so this is the persistent chat. We are able to attach documents. We're able to have a wiki conversation. We can leverage Power BI for reporting, for transparency. We can leave each other notes. So Dan's been writing to me, and he said, Molly, I really need some help on finalizing this product demonstration. I can reply in line to him and, you know, make sure he sees this. And I can tell him I can help you after this webinar. So very simple, but starting a new conversation, just as simple. And say I wanted to add a subject line. So M400 needs new product booklet. So I can notify Dan, and we can send a new message, but this allows me to create a new subject and have inline conversation around a subject. But the beauty of this is that I can search through this, and if I forgot, you know, where that document was that someone posted, I can search this thread and find it, and also see the inline contextual messages that people said about it, which is really helpful when you're trying to figure out where everything is. So I think one of the most powerful pieces about the team is the fact that we can add additional tabs that make this team environment very customized and very tailored to what we need for M400. So we have a file area, and this is effectively a SharePoint document library. So we can edit documents right out of this. And you have all the same features and power of a document library from SharePoint Online. You can create folders, we can get links and share content with one another, and you can access it in this app view. You can look at it in a document library in SharePoint Online. You can sync it with your file explorer. So the power is really remarkable. Our ability to also have a OneNote tab so that we can leverage the same notebook while we're taking notes during meetings or different activities. Tasks, and Tasks is leveraging Planner, the Microsoft Planner app. And this is like a lightweight task management, lightweight project, if you will. And it allows us to have a very simple interface for task management, creating new tasks, descriptions, comments, progress. Very, very cool and easy. And in fact, I personally really like using this, working with my colleagues on different projects and events that we plan. And then the last piece I'll show you is connectivity with Power BI. So since we're in sales and the M400 product, it's really important for us to know, how are our sales doing? What are our stats? And what do we need, to be doing in order to make our numbers for this year? So it can connect me to my Power BI dashboard for M400, and I can see some of the statistics on where we're at and where we're going. So adding a new tab, very simple, and there are a lot of different connectors available. And I'll also mention Smartsheet, since I know that there are a lot of folks leveraging Smartsheet, but you can create another Smartsheet tab for integration there. So Daniel, is there anything that you would like to add about the power of a team?
I'll answer a few of the questions in the audience. I think someone asked about sharing screen within Team. Yes, you can do screen sharing as well. Teams is using the Skype infrastructure behind the scene. It's not fully integrated with Skype for Business, but that's coming in the next few months. So you can share screen. Other people have asked about the pre-busy schedule. Yes, that's available in Teams when you schedule a meeting with Teams as well. So, one thing I wanted to add regarding Teams is, for most people, it looks and feels like Slack. I think there's a huge difference is the tab interface, right? That's what Microsoft has added, the ability to really make every team unique with promoting documents, OneNote, and wikis, and tasks, and add any other tab as you're liking. And frankly, we could go on for demonstration of this great capability within, the next 2 hours. And unfortunately, we don't have time. But that was a great intro, Jill.
Great. All right. So why don't we switch it back to you, and we'll continue with our conversation.
All right. So next topic, Jill, was Power Apps, right?
Yes, Power Apps. So this is one of those services that was listed in that Office 365 30,000 foot view diagram. And so this is a new service that's, it's been out for about a year now or so, right? And we've been seeing a lot of improvement and a lot more capability come to Power Apps. And Microsoft is making a very big investment in this and its supplemental service mate, if you will, that we're going to talk about in this conversation. So Power Apps is Microsoft's response to InfoPath going away. And I'm just going to say that out there, but it's not exactly equivalent and it's not exactly the same. So they're trying to take a more modern approach by looking at applications businesses need to build in order to improve efficiency, to improve data integrity and automation. So the idea behind a Power App is that it is a WYSIWYG editor that allows a non-technical individual to be able to build a sophisticated data collection application that has intelligence, that has formulas, conditions, and formatting in a polished business format to help you accomplish a task.
And
So
we see, Jill, we see a lot of people thinking about Power Apps as the replacement of Microsoft Access, right? Or Excel spreadsheet that does business processing of sort, right? So, Power Apps is really positioned as your place to create lightweight business application in the Microsoft cloud.
Exactly. And I think that that's a really important distinction when you think about how powerful this really can be for your organization, and being able to leverage it and understand it and make it work for you is something that most companies can't ignore to do. So working with your existing data sources, there are connectors that you can establish to create connectivity within your network and within your environment to connect to a Power App that you have. So the data that you have in an existing database somewhere, you can connect that to have it presented and make it actionable for users. You can build a user interface interaction, build the app without writing code and moving it forward. So again, the idea is connect to a data source, create that front end, create the conditions and formulas. It can be delivered to users in any device. There's a Power App that allows you to access your app on your mobile device, on a tablet. You can also build your apps for tablet ratio specifically if you know that your users are going to be leveraging iPads or other tablet devices specifically to consume that data. So Daniel, why don't we continue to move forward and we can jump right into a demo.
Yeah, absolutely. And we heard from a lot of people that there's a lot of background noise, so we're going to try to fix this issue. Anyway, so talking about Power Apps, a lot of folks say, well, what can we use Power Apps for? Well, it can be used for a lot of different things, and Microsoft has done a good job giving us sample applications, so I'm going to show you some of those. You can use it to create a case management application to front-end Salesforce.com, or a ticketing system that's built in Office 365 that's connecting to a cloud-based system, a budgeting application, a showcase application. And the application you build with Power Apps are essentially an application that will live in the cloud and be consumable from a web browser or an iPhone or a tablet, right? And then, when you think about an app, there's always a need to move data as well, maybe do some approval of data. And that's where Flow comes in. Microsoft Flow is another capability that was launched about 9 months ago. That is the equivalent of doing limited or small workflows to do things such as IFTT, Zapier, which are common platform that a lot of people have used, essentially getting notification and moving content from one system to another. That's what Flow is all about. And Power Apps and Flow really plays together, right? They're all, visually available, and often you build an app that has a need to move data, and Flow can be how you do that down the road. So let's jump into a demonstration here. So one thing we haven't talked about as well, and that's a new feature that was enabled in July for most Office 365 tenants, is this concept of lightweight forms. Forms is a new workload. We have to admit that Microsoft isn't always very creative when it comes to naming their products. Microsoft Forms is sort of a boring name, Jill, don't you think?
Yes, and again, very confusing when you're talking about Power Apps and forms.
Yeah, so Microsoft Form is a lightweight capability to create forms and surveys. So here I created our M400 client satisfaction survey form, right? So it's easy to use. I can move it here. and you can easily create, add, move, question, and so forth, right? So if you guys have used SurveyMonkey or any online tool, you know, or Jot Forms or things like that, this will look very familiar. Where it gets interesting is you can share that with the organization, either internally or externally, and you can decide if people have to be a member of your Office 365 tenant to respond, or can people respond anonymously, right? So that's what's available with Microsoft Forms. Easy to use, should be all available in your app launcher here. You need to have it activated on your tenant, and here you are, you've got your Microsoft Form, and you can create forms and quiz and share them within your organization. Power Apps is also a workload that gets launched from your app launcher here. And that's where you create connection, and you see that Flow is integrated here with Power Apps, and that's where I can create my new apps. So for the sake of today's demonstration, we're not going to create an app, but we're going to take an existing one, which is a case management app. This is an app that connects to Salesforce.com and essentially acts as a front end to a backend cloud application. So why would people want to do that? You know, there's a lot of reasons. Sometimes they want to stay within Office 365, and this is a place where I can create an app that shows me different cases, right? This is all data coming from another system. I can edit, I can change, I can do all the things that you expect it to do, right? And that's all done WYSIWYG without writing any line of code, right? And that can be distributed, again, on a web browser, an app, or so forth. Now, let's bring it all together here. You remember this satisfaction survey, right? We're going to publish that to the world, but we want to make our team, right, available when a new survey has been populated. So I'm going to go here and create a new flow, right? Now, Flow obviously is a capability from Microsoft that gives us the ability to create notification or move content. So I'm going to say anytime a new form is connected, right? So Microsoft Forms here, whenever there's a form that is submitted in my M400 satisfaction survey, I want you to do a couple of things. One, I want you to post to my team channel right here, a new post. And I want you to go to a specific team, the sales operation team. And I'm going to pick my channel M400, and I'm going to say, I want to know responsive time, and then type something, message submitted, right? And I'm going to save my flow. So what did I do here? I created a mini workflow here that says every time someone submit a form, which we're going to do right now, so it's a live demo here, guys, so bear with us if it doesn't work. But let's fill our survey here. And we have to fill a lot of answers here. And then if I hit submit here, all I have to do is go to my team here, and hopefully at some point I'll get a notification that, oh, a new survey has been published, right? Now you can see the power of this kind of interaction, create Power Apps or forms and Flow, and have all your service interact with it. Obviously, if I did a good job here, I would have put a link so people can go see the response itself, but we are running a little bit out of time here. So what we wanted to do is give you a brief taste of, again, a lot of new technology coming out here in the world of Office 365, and some of those are exciting and will allow us to do a lot of different things here. All right.
So Daniel,
yes.
I think before we move into this slide, we do have one question, and it is, can you use Flow with tasks in the same manner as with dependencies that are created in a project management software, so that after one task is complete, is the next one activated or alerted? Absolutely.
You can create condition and task, and you can yet do things such as a state workflow that's just waiting, right? So task and flow are usually sequential. It starts and it ends at some point. But you can branch with condition. You can say, hey, I'm going to first check that, you know, something in my system X, Y, and Z hasn't been triggered, and then move on to the next steps. So absolutely.
And so one of the things that I've noticed about Flow is, while there are a lot of templates, The strength of Flow is really about notifications. It's about moving data from different locations within the Office 365 ecosystem. It's about, having data, files move from different document libraries, et cetera. But it's not really strong in the transactional workflows as far as approvals and workflow queues where users need to be triggered for actions such as approvals or digital online signature. And that's still a gap, in my opinion, with Flow.
It is, but I had the pleasure to meet with the Power Apps and Flow team at Microsoft and learn that they have over 100 people in those two teams. So it is a large investment that Microsoft is doing, and we are going to see a lot of advances in capabilities coming to both Power Apps, Forms, and Flow as well over the next 90 days and potentially the next 3 months.
So I think it'll be really interesting to see where this goes, just given the prevalence of other third-party workflow and forms vendors in the marketplace, and what options Microsoft starts to present to all of us.
Yeah, and what we've heard from Microsoft, Jill, on the Flow side is that they want to give us parity to what people could have done in the past with SharePoint Designer, right? There's still going to be a place for solutions such as Nintex, Forms and Workflow, which are more advanced and more complicated, right? But for flows, when you have simple workflow, a 3-step approval process or a 4-step notification process, Flow will be a great tool to do that. So we see a lot of our clients probably will use a hybrid method, right? Complex workflow using more advanced product and simple things using Flow, Forms, and Power Apps.
So then moving back into our deck here and the differences between Power Apps and Forms, I think you hit a lot of this in the demo, just showing the simplicity of a form, the ability to create a survey, as opposed to Power Apps, which is a lot more sophisticated, a lot more capability. And, I think one of the things that I like to highlight, just given the fact that I'm not technical, is I've been able to build Power Apps myself. However, there are some functions that require a programming background. So when you are trying to accomplish some pieces, you kind of need to reach back into that programming background in order to get some things done.
Yeah, I mean, things such as connecting to a Salesforce API, right? I mean, we wouldn't expect a person with no technical background to be able to do that. Now, that person can build a front end, right, and act like that. But I think at some point there may be some needs for more technical capabilities.
Exactly. So I think it's just appropriate to think through how and who will use which of these tools.
Yeah, and Jill, this is a slide that we've been working with. We're trying to visualize the intersection of workloads within Office 365, and this is a new version that Microsoft put together that added the dimension that we didn't think about, which was generation, right? This slide essentially gives us what to use based on priority and what to use based on who the audience is, right? So for instance, if you're an individual doing ad hoc work, well, do that in OneDrive for Business, right? But if you want to, talk about the entire organization and have a chat with the entire organization, Yammer is probably the right tool. Jill, do you want to give us more insight of what we're thinking here?
Yeah, well, I first thought that the generational alignment of the different tools was kind of funny, but really appropriate and good to keep in mind as you roll these pieces out. We work with a lot of customers and thinking through how to manage change when you're rolling these new capabilities, because ultimately, we are changing the way people collaborate, and we're asking them to use tools and to adopt new habits as they start leveraging these new pieces that IT is rolling out. And so, being very clear about what to use when is very important. And this diagram is, I think, very simple, for the breadth of capability and services that Office 365 offers. But from a communication standpoint, you know, it's working through email, it's working through Skype, it's talking about Yammer and Teams. And I think it's actually very appropriate when you think about individual one-on-one conversation versus smaller groups to teams to departments to organization, and how information is shared and where you go to participate or consume information from the organization level as opposed to the individual level. And so this can be a really great guide in getting started to think about what to use when, since that's been a really, you know, a big topic of conversation.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing we've noticed, Jill, is that for many organizations, if we were to look at their current state, Outlook email would probably take the majority of this graph, right? Many organizations are very dependent on email. Everything is done on email. And those organizations that gets more successful in collaboration will see the, you know, the Microsoft Teams takes more and more of the space in a graph like that. And we see here, you know, obviously every organization will have a different graph of what to use when, but Teams is starting, in our belief, to take more and more space into what people are going to use in the future.
Right, and I think the reason for that is personal organization, being able to find conversations, being able to remember who said what, and just, you know, we're all so busy, and keeping track of email, the flood of email that we all get every day, is just simply overwhelming. So, you know, the pace of business is forcing us into better personal organization, and I think Teams is a tool that helps that.
Definitely. And that's a good segue to what's coming next, Jill, because while Teams is great, it has a few challenges. And I think one person asked the question about what can you use external access for. Obviously, it is not yet available in Teams. And frankly, we are a little disappointed of the time it's taken Microsoft to solve this. It was initially promised for the month of June. We're going into late August, and it's still not there. We suspect that Ignite will be the time where this will become available. It's probably the most far requested feature around Teams, is to allow external people to access some of those Teams channels, right? So that's coming. That's the good news. Obviously, lots of things happening with SharePoint. You know, Microsoft will announce a lot of things at Ignite. And then, you know, Power Apps and Flow are continuing to be updated on a monthly basis. What's coming next is better integration with SharePoint and lists, right? Which is using Power Apps as a means to customize a SharePoint list. That's a very common use case that we hear a lot of requests for. So that's all coming very, very soon. All right, so Jill, do we have any questions we haven't talked about? And I know we're running out of time here.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, and we had a few more questions. However, I think we should just respond to those folks individually.
That's a good idea. And for those of you on the phone that are, you know, intrigued, interested about what's coming, we're happy to, you know, schedule time with you. Jill and I will be available over the next few weeks to have a consultation with you, talk about what you learn, you know, learn more about your organization, and see if we can, you know, get you in the right direction.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and joining us in this conversation. Daniel, thank you for the demos and all of the great insights. We really appreciate the time, and please do reach out if we can help you in any way to continue this conversation. Thank you very much.